Okay. Okay, so I'm Caitlin, for those of you who haven't met me.
Yes, and I'm Shirley. Nice to meet you all.
And I'm Crystal.
Yeah, and we're all OT students here at Stanbridge, just like the class before you. And today we're going to be presenting on social skills for communication. I'm sure a lot of you have some of these skills. Maybe some of them you want to hone in on a little, so hopefully today this can help you out a little. So today's outline, we're going to be talking about social cues and their importance. So some of the ones we're going to be going over: eye contact, tone of voice, voice volume, personal space and body boundaries, and then also a little side note, maintaining good hygiene, how to enter group and individual conversations, initiating a get-together, conflict resolution, and also electronic communication, which is very common nowadays, as I'm sure you all know. So a little meme for you if you can't see it. Do you want to turn off the light? Yeah, so it says, not sure if I'm ignoring social cues or I just don't even know what social cues are. So just a little question. Do you guys know what they are? Anyone want to take a guess? Lee?
Well, it all depends. If people was trying to say something or tell you something, all depends if that's appropriate to talk about or not appropriate.
Good. So it's a way to tell kind of what people are really saying with their words, right? It could be nonverbal or verbal. So with that.
So what are social cues? So kind of like what Lee said and Caitlin said, they're the signals or messages that people send through their body language and expressions. They can be verbal, like your tone of voice, or they could be nonverbal, like your body language.
Or your facial expressions, right?
Okay, so now that we kind of know what social cues are, why are they important to recognize? So it increases our communication skills. So throughout conversations, you can read someone better. You know how to appropriately answer. It helps us interpret someone's behavior. And like I said, it allows us to respond to others appropriately. And that way you can also tell how they're feeling as well.
Ooh, can you go back?
Back.
Okay, so an important one, appropriate eye contact. Another little meme for you here. Smile and make eye contact. Don't be creepy. So with that, so eye contact does not mean staring. I know it's a little tough to remember sometimes, but of course staring can make someone very uncomfortable. They can make them scared even, or even angry, which can be dangerous for both sides. Good eye contact indicates that you're focused and paying attention to what the other person is saying. And again, it's really important to make sure that making good eye contact doesn't mean just staring at them the entire time that they're talking. Instead, it's more of looking at them from time to time just to make sure that you're aware of what they're saying, staying focused, and really being respectful when someone else is talking to you.
So for tone of voice, that is how you're saying something to communicate how you're feeling. And it can give a stronger message than you may intend, and it may actually change the meaning of what you're saying. So if I were to say, like, Caitlin, you're so funny, like, and be like smiling, and it could be seen as a compliment. But if I'm like, Caitlin, you're so funny, like, it could be seen more as like sarcasm, or that it's actually, I don't mean that she's funny.
Did you see the difference in her tone of voice and how that can change the entire message? Yes, Lee?
You know what? That's what I used to do when I remember when I was a kid. I told those kids what to do like that. Guess what I told those kids? Don't make me laugh. You know what some kids do when they say don't make me laugh? They're doing this their way.
Exactly. So they were able to pick up on your sarcasm, right? And
Yeah.
on your social cues. So that was really great of them to do.
All right, so now speaking volume. All right, so controlling your speaking volume is an important skill for getting along with others. In different speaking volumes are appropriate for different situations. So let's say if I'm really close to Crystal, should I be yelling at her? No, it might make her feel uncomfortable. It might disturb her a lot. If I'm in let's say we're in a library, should I be speaking loudly or maybe a little softer? What do you guys think? Softer, right. And why is that?
So, because you don't have to disrupt or disturb the other people who are in that certain location.
Perfect. Yeah, in a library, usually people are studying or reading, so you don't want to disturb others.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might upset them.
Awesome.
Oh, that face though.
Just another little one for you. Classic SNL.
Yeah.
So personal space and body boundaries. personal space, if you guys aren't familiar with the term, is like a little invisible bubble around us. It's really the distance between you and another person when you're speaking, standing next to each other. And that's typically about an arm's length away. If you're not really sure how close to get to someone, just a little rule of thumb, just this distance is pretty good.
Close.
Yeah, it's a little safe distance, you know? And then maintaining body boundaries allows others to be comfortable in your presence. So how do you think you'd feel if I just met Shirley for the first time and I'm like, oh my god, hi, like, how are you?
No.
How do you think she feels?
Body language.
Not good. Not comfortable.
good.
No.
Absolutely.
That's
And-
embarrassing.
Yeah, and what if I'm like, hi, I'm Caitlin for the first time, like
Nope.
this far away.
No.
How do you think she feels when I'm
She
not
can't
far?
hear you.
Right, it's kind of awkward, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So just say, excuse me, like repeat again.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you're kind of positioning yourself in the optimal place to make everyone comfortable, make sure you can hear everyone talking, and yeah, maintain good body boundaries. Yeah, so we have a quick little role play activity just to practice. So the first one we're gonna do is an eye contact one. I'm sure you guys are all familiar when we say, you know, don't stare, but let's do a little practice. So can we have 3 volunteers? I know there's only 4 of you.
I know. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you,
Yes.
Lee. Do you want to just go this way? Thank you.
Yeah.
Roberto, David, do you want to participate? It's really quick.
I'm not comfortable.
Okay, that's okay. We'll do 2.
But thank you for the
No,
offer.
you don't need to.
Then can I do it?
Yeah, of course. So you can stay right there. So basically what we're going to have you do is you're going to tell Crystal or Shirley what you did today so far, and you're going to tell me what you did today so far. And we're going to show you a type of eye contact. Whether it might be too much, too little, or just right. And you're going to tell us what you think it is and also how it made you feel. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe we'll both do it.
Sure. Yeah. Or I'll
Do
be.
you have some extra chair for you?
That's okay. I can go around here.
All right.
That's all right.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
All right. Do you mind if I join the conversation too?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
not at all.
All right. I'm gonna join this level.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Yeah,
meet
we
you.
met
So tell me what you did today,
Crystal
Crystal.
and
I just went to
Sure, try to look at me when you're
Sure.
going to tell me what you did
Oh.
today.
You know what we did today?
Class.
Today we were talking about nutrition, talking about
I
some
went to
food,
class and I
healthy
learned a
stuff.
lot about
I'll show it to you what we have.
how it tastes
We,
good for your brain.
Have this stuff
Get your brain going.
for all of us, and then they try to help all of us to learn about from exercising,
Okay.
eat
What
right,
did you
and all
notice
kinds of stuff
about
we
when you
do,
were talking?
and all these
I was
things we
looking
have
down
learned to
the
do.
whole
I know you were looking
And then
down, but what was I
After
doing?
that,
Did
you
you
gotta
notice?
know, we play a game to see
Oh, I was actually
which
looking all
one
around.
is
I
good
wasn't
and
making
which
eye
one's not
contact
good,
at all,
true
but
or
I guess
false.
neither were you. But what's
So
the
that's why we
appropriate thing to do then?
So it's helping for everybody.
Every so
Keep
often,
it
right?
strong.
We don't want to be like,
That's awesome.
we
Okay.
don't want to be doing this, right? Because that makes you uncomfortable. I can see it in your body language.
So, what did you
So you want to do it every
How
so
was
often.
my eye
You know,
contact
look away
versus
sometimes,
yours?
look at them
You were
sometimes.
eye
Now, what does
contact,
that
so
really
you're a
show
good
you?
listener, and you pay
Eye
attention.
contact?
And
And
Well,
she-
right, that there.
She didn't pay attention because she
Right,
turned around,
that they're
faced the other way,
interested, so
and
good
Patricia's
job.
not here and ignoring me, and that's very rude.
Right. How did that
See,
make you
you're
feel?
polite, me not happy,
Right.
make me disappointed.
Yeah. It didn't look like I was paying attention or
That's
interested
very
in your
rude.
conversation.
You should think before you do something, or say something, or do anything
good
about
job.
it.
Yeah.
And like, and don't forget when people interrupt talking, you know what to do. Yeah. Okay.
Good job. Thank you for participating.
Okay, Crystal and Shirley.
Thank you.
Yeah, did I call you Shirley by mistake? I mean, Crystal by mistake and Shirley one time? By
Okay,
mistake?
But now you got it down.
You got it down. You
Yeah.
got it.
and then just 2 more very quickly. So what type of tone and speaking volume would you use to maybe ask someone a question in the library? Can someone demonstrate? Lee?
Well, when you go to the library, you have to say, excuse me, or when people work up there and say, can I help you? You have to talk quietly
Mhm.
while everybody's reading or doing some other business stuff too, because you have to be real quiet and don't make noisy. Because if you make noisy, if you go at the library, guess what? The library will be very angry, yell at them and tell them, say, don't ever do that again. They say, if you keep it up, you're not coming back there anymore.
That's right.
I'm serious, because that happens to me when I was in Maryland, because when I was talking to some people at the library, some teen kids were acting crazy and everything like that, and I didn't like it, so I'm glad the librarian, he had to raise his voice, and he was like, mad as hell.
Right.
Excuse me to say that word, but I'm telling you the
No,
truth.
that's okay. Yeah, so we really want to be aware of our tone, our voice, and just everything about how we carry ourselves in different
Yeah.
settings, right? Okay, good job, everybody.
So,
Yeah.
although hygiene isn't really a social cue, it's an important part of socializing. So whether we like it or not, the first thing people notice about us is how we look. So being clean and well groomed is really important, and it can help you improve your self-esteem and confidence in social situations. And poor hygiene can actually have a negative effect on how people view you and also in your professional life. So it's really important to maintain that.
So this little meme here, if you can't see, it says, yeah, if you could work on personal hygiene, that would be great.
All right, so we reviewed some social cues. We talked about hygiene. So now entering a group conversation. So it might be a little intimidating to do that with strangers, right? So it's really important to be polite and to not interrupt, right, Lee?
Right.
That's a perfect example. Joining a group of people who are conversing about a topic you're interested in or know about. So for me, let's say when I'm in class and I overhear people talking about, hey, I watched the Warriors game last night. I'm really interested in basketball. So I would probably interject with that conversation, but I'd wait my turn. I wouldn't want to interrupt. But yeah, it's definitely something that I can add more to the conversation too. What else? Oh, and when we are entering a conversation, you want to make sure to be aware of those social cues that we talked about. So how is my tone of voice? How is my spacing? You don't want to be in someone's bubble. Yeah, and making sure you're making eye contact so they know that you're talking to them.
We have a little example for you. Hopefully the internet is kind to us.
UCLA video.
Yeah.
Oh,
You guys
yay.
might have seen this.
I remember that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it like last year, all these years.
Yeah.
Wow.
We did a lot of research on this.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
got to learn what to do and what not to do.
Yeah. So if this doesn't work out, we're gonna do a little role play for you guys as a improvise.
You know, we can make rules. We can write down. You know, I thought about rules. We can write down the do's and the don'ts. That would help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Respect the matter.
Oh,
Looks like
Oh,
it's
good.
working.
Is the audio good?
let's hope.
Hopefully it's not too
Not yet. Kind of slow.
I know the internet in here is just
It's awful.
not. Yeah, I was gonna say not the best, but it's pretty awful.
It's awful.
Hashtag.
Just the one right around the corner. Oh, I've been meaning to check out this out.
Yeah, it's so close by and I'd never gone, but I went. It was really good.
Cool. What did you guys get?
Oh no.
Oh no. She was just about to come in.
I got a spicy cinnamon and I loved it.
You got the spicy two-year-old? That's what I always get.
Yeah, how good is it?
It's so good there. Have you guys tried the rainbow roll?
That was the gist of it. So can you guys kind of point out, like Lee, you said some of the do's and don'ts, maybe some of the do's that
Yes.
this girl did to enter the group conversation?
She did good.
Yeah, what did she do?
Well, when she heard people talking, she came up and talked to see what's going on and everything, and she listened and she didn't interrupt.
No,
Mhm,
I actually got the
perfect.
salmon roll. Oh, okay. That's
She was
good.
polite.
The rainbow
Exactly.
is a specialty.
Cool.
Yeah.
If you were gonna go, what'd you get?
I looked at the California
Yeah, so that was the gist of it. Awesome job pointing out the things that she did right. So the next we're going to talk about is initiating an individual conversation, which I find a little more nerve-wracking. I don't know about you guys, but just some little tips. If you haven't met them before, greet yourself and introduce yourself nicely, of course. Also making sure you're paying attention to your own social cues that you're expressing, like your body language, your body space. You don't, like I showed you earlier, you don't want to go up to her this close and introduce yourself, right? You want to choose a topic that you would like to talk about, or just ask a question. That's always a nice way to start a conversation. And then use your best judgment to decide whether the person you're talking to is actually interested in continuing the conversation. So you want to pay attention to their social cues. If they're very standoffish, not looking at you, body's kind of positioned away from you, what does that kind of tell you? That they're not really interested in the conversation. And that's okay. It's also very important to choose an appropriate time and place to start a conversation, right? Let's say someone's studying really hard for finals in the library, they have their headphones on. Do you think that's a good time to go up to them and be like, "Hi, I'm Kaylin"? Probably not, right?
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah, they're clearly busy. They may not want to be disturbed. That can actually make them very angry. So what's a good place to approach someone and start a conversation?
Starbucks.
Starbucks. Yes?
Chipotle?
Sure, Chipotle in line, right? You gotta wait a long time for your food, make some conversation.
You can go to the pharmacy.
Yeah, just really anywhere where you're not bothering someone, right? Yeah, even at lunch at IBC or
Right.
wherever you go to school, yeah, it's a great time
If
to
they don't
start.
look busy, then it's probably a good time to initiate a conversation. Right.
Right, so good job. So do you guys want to see an example?
Sure.
All right.
Fingers crossed.
It's not your fault. Everybody's computer's like that.
I know, sorry guys.
Was the volume
Oh, it's
okay?
okay.
Yeah.
Are you guys
Yes.
able to hear?
It's okay. It's not your fault. It's just the way the computer is.
Thanks for being so understanding.
Oh my god, I love that song.
Yeah, me too. This is the new video that just came out today.
No way, I'm dying to see that.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's awesome. Have you ever seen her in concert?
I have. I actually have tickets for her upcoming concert.
Upcoming concert. So before kind of buffers, notice how she kind of came in and asked a question.
No way, the one that's coming up in 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's gonna be so great.
That's so cool.
Have you ever seen her perform?
No, I wish. I really want to.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing in concert.
Again, this was the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to waste too much of your time while it
need
buffers.
to see her.
Yeah, that's
Can we
what
just
I've
stop?
heard.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, we'll stop.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah. So you notice how she kind of entered herself when she wasn't interrupting anyone while the girl was on her phone, but she was very gracious about it, and she showed her that she was also interested in continuing the conversation. So that's why it was appropriate to continue. Okay.
So what are some ways to tell if someone's interested in a conversation? What do you guys think?
I said it's really good. You can eye contact with other people at the same time. They talk to you and they ask you questions, and people always come to you, look at you about it, and it really works. That means you're being polite, good listener. Like people do a lot of talking
They will listen to your facts.
without interrupt.
That's right.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other
I like it.
things?
I like it.
Yeah.
Eye contact is really good.
Excuse me.
Very
Excuse me.
important.
He was reading paper and said, pay attention.
Oh,
That's right.
so I'm going to show you some other things.
So, like you said, Lee, maintaining good eye contact and seeing if they're actively responding to you, what you're saying. And if they're engaged, they're not on their phone or looking away from you. And they may be smiling or nodding to also show that they're interested.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like that.
Maybe a thumbs up
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Just like that.
Good.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, so what are some ways to tell if someone is not interested in a conversation? Any examples? Lee.
It's a kid was looking at his father while his father read the newspaper because he was trying to read to know what's going on in the news or anything, and the girl was going to say something to her father or something, but he's just reading because he was ignoring him because that girl was acting very bad and grumpy. Sometimes she talked back to her father too, or say, I want to do things my way, and guess what her father would tell her? No!
So he was not interested. He wanted to read his newspaper, right?
And mind his own business.
Right, so that has a lot to do with eye contact as well.
Like what's
right?
going on in the news, because they want to know about the taxes. That's important in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
That's important.
Yeah, notice how he's looking straight at the paper and she's standing right there like, Dad, pay attention to me, but he's not
No, he's the
interested.
boss, and she's not.
Okay, so like we said, they would lack eye contact. They have their arms crossed. I mean, when I look like this, do I look like I want to have a conversation?
No.
No, I look kind of upset, or maybe just over the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their body is not facing you. Like if Crystal's talking to me.
Hey, Shirley. Shirley.
Oh, hey, great. It doesn't even look like we're in a conversation, right? I'm not interested at all. If they're constantly checking their watch or phone, if I'm checking my watch, it kind of looks like I'd rather go somewhere else or pretend I'm busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they may seem bored or annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of signs can you tell if someone's bored? What do you think?
You don't look happy.
They don't look happy, right? What if I'm doing this?
Tired.
I'm a little bored. I'm over the conversation as well.
Have some pictures here.
Yep, the arms crossed, He's on his phone. She doesn't look happy.
That's boring to me.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about some tips about how to initiate a get-together. So you want to pay attention to the social cues of other people and yourself really before initiating. So you want to make sure that they are interested in the conversation. So you can use some of the tips that we just talked about, right? They're making eye contact, they may be smiling, nodding, they're very engaged in your conversation. And then you can be like, oh, you know, it might be time to ask them to hang out. Remember that when you are asking someone to get together, you want to be very polite. And the most important thing that I want to stress is that you need to respect their decision. Whether it's a yes and that makes you very happy, or whether it's a no and you're a little disappointed, you have to respect the other person's decision. It is their decision and they have the right to, you know, hang out or not hang out. If it does go well and they say yes, then you can go ahead and agree on a specific time and place. And then exchange contact information only if everyone is comfortable. So this is a big one. I know if exchanging contact information with anyone, whether it's your classmate or someone you're trying to go on a date with, it's a little tricky. You know, there's not a black and white pamphlet to go by, but you really want to make sure that you're being polite, respectful, and doing your best to read the social cues of the other person to see if that's something that they would like as well. Okay. And what are some appropriate first hangouts, like places that you can go to hang out or things to do?
Well, like if you have some friends that they're gonna invite you, go someplace else, like go to the park, outside parking.
Yeah, that's
Go to the park. That would help.
Yeah. Anyone have any other suggestions for an appropriate first hangout? Yes.
A neighbor's party?
Yeah, that sounds like a fun one. Maybe just getting lunch even on campus, right?
Yeah.
Very safe, very appropriate. Most people are comfortable with that. So we have videos. These are the last few videos, I believe, and hopefully the internet's kind, but just a good and a bad example of exchanging contact information with someone.
Let's do bad stuff first.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that.
Not
Oh,
Try
go-
that again. Keep going.
Oh.
There you go.
There we go.
I don't know if it's gonna work again. I might do that
I'm
again.
scared to
Circle.
touch it here.
Try that.
Did you?
I don't think it's working.
Okay,
Should I
we
try
can act it out for you.
All right.
Honestly, okay. I'll be this girl and.
Oh.
She doesn't want me to act for you
Let's
guys.
try it.
Nope. Here
Wow.
we
There you go.
Is that
Wow.
before?
Oh.
Alright, it's loading.
Slowly.
Slowly but surely.
go. Here we go. The bad example.
Hey, can I get your number?
Oh, jeez.
No. Why not? Just give me your number. I don't want to. Why? Can I just have your phone number? No. Just give me your phone number. I'm not going to give you my number.
So, what did the girl on the right do wrong in this situation? Yes.
Annoy her with asking her, can I have your phone number? Can I have your phone number? Can I have your phone number?
Yeah. Do you think it's respectful to keep asking after someone's already said no?
I think it would be rude.
Right. It is
I
rude.
agree.
It's
It is rude.
yeah. It's not respecting their decision, and they, you know, they have every right to say no. It's very contact information is personal information, right? Yes, Lee?
She had to think about it first before she say something or do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. So
For
that
me,
was a very bad example of asking for someone's contact information. And then here's a pretty good one. I'll move so you can see. If it ever moves. Jeez. Okay.
yeah, wait, hopefully.
Oh man.
Yeah, exactly. Just no.
Doing well, how are you? Good, how was your weekend? It was really nice, how was yours? It was great, I actually went to this new sushi place. Oh, cool. Yeah, and I thought of you because I remember you told me you like sushi. I love sushi. Yeah. So it's like a brand new place.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's right around the corner.
Oh, I've seen that one. I've been wanting to go.
Well, we should go together.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you want to exchange numbers?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What's your phone number?
It's 555-1212.
Okay, cool. I will text you tomorrow and we can make friends.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
I bet you they had to use a fake, no fake.
Yeah, it probably wasn't a real.
What was different from that
my
good
bad.
example versus that first
Let's
one we
watch
saw?
the first example again.
They were eye contact with each other.
Mhm.
There was
They're
Yeah.
very polite and they have good manners.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
I think we should watch the first example again.
Do you want to see the first one?
Why don't we go back to that when we're maybe at the
Yeah.
end if we have more time? We don't want to waste too much of your time and keep
Right.
you over. But basically, the gist of it was, can I have your number? No.
No one.
No.
She was basically asking the same
No.
question.
Over and
Yeah.
over. Yep.
Very rude.
And the girl did not seem happy.
Yeah, so a natural part of social interactions and just friendships in general are maybe like misunderstandings and disagreements, and that's because not everyone has the same opinions, and sometimes we say things that can be misinterpreted. That's fine. So it's important to have some strategies in place to handle what conflict when it comes up. So some of these strategies are to describe what you want, calmly tell the other person what's bothering you, listen carefully to what others are saying, talk about the conflict in like a mutual problem. It's not just your problem, it's theirs as well. And if you start to feel upset, just take some time, maybe step away, come back to it when you're calm.
Now, you guys like memes. We have another one for you here. Don't know if you can see it. It says, can't resolve conflicts without a conflict resolution strategy.
Okay, so like in that first example, right, in that video where she was asking her constantly for her number, she kept saying no, that's handling peer rejection, right? Instead of actually asking her over and over, you should actually respect her decision. So you gotta remember that you may not get along with everyone you meet, but that's okay because there's so many people in the world. You're gonna find people who are excited to want to be your friend or actually interested in the same things as you. So don't give up. Remember that there are people who share the same values and interests as you do and would love to be your friend. And oh, that's a cute little dog. It's okay, you still rock.
Puppy.
It's a puppy, I know.
Bless you. So to segue into our next topic is electronic communication, which I'm sure most of you use very often now. So I'm sure you guys text message, email, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is out there. Very common forms now, but it's important to be kind to others online just like you would in person. I know a lot of people think they're brave by saying mean things online, but do you think they really say them to people in person when they see you? Probably not, right? So you want to make sure that you're just as kind, just as respectful when you're meeting people online versus in person. Keep your messages sweet and simple, just a little tip. Make sure you're always aware of who you're talking to. So there's kind of two parts of this. One is, you probably wouldn't want to send your boss or your grandma the same thing that you're sending your best friend, right? You really want to make sure you're aware of who exactly you're sending your message to. And also as a safety precaution, when you're meeting people online, there's always a chance that you're not talking to the person you think you might be. So it's always good to take precautions when it comes to that. And a big one I want to highlight, since we talked about social cues earlier, is that when you're using electronic communication, there's an absence of social cues, right? Do you think you can see someone's facial expression or body language when you're texting them?
Not really. Not really.
Right? Yeah, and then sometimes you might be saying something that you think is funny, but without that tone of voice or without that, the facial expression or whatever it is to accompany it, they might misinterpret it, right? Just like when Crystal was telling me, "Oh, Caitlin, you're so funny." If she said that in a different, in a context and I took it wrong, I might get upset or I might get offended because I might think she's being sarcastic when in actuality she was, giving a compliment. So remember that an absence of social cues can lead to these misinterpretations. So you really want to be careful with your messages. Keep them sweet and simple and keep them straightforward. Okay. So what do you think are some pros and cons to electronic communication? I just went over a couple of them. Yali?
Well, they have something in different ways. They do their pros is different, cons is different. So they do the left way their own opposite way, and the right one their own opposite way. they have computers because it all depends. They're different.
Okay, what do you think is a good thing about using electronic communication?
Well, it's easy for them. Like you could check something like w.com.
Yeah, it's very quick and convenient,
It's
right?
easy instead of don't look around or checking the newspaper, because sometimes in the newspaper or check the yellow book in the phone, sometimes it doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What about something that's maybe not so great about using electronic communication?
Well, 'cause sometimes everything messed up. And sometimes
Just like
it's-
Technical
you saw.
difficulties.
Technical
Yeah.
difficulties,
because it messed
yeah.
things up and it get all scrambled up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are great ones. So a couple that we wrote down for you. Some advantages or pros. They're a very convenient way to stay in touch with our friends, our families, get in touch with people all over the world, really, at the click of a button. And you can share pictures, videos, messages. I can't snap, but just like that. And then some cons to using electronic communication. It really decreases some of that face-to-face communication skills that we're trying to stress today. So like I said, you can't practice any of those social cues. You can't practice reading social cues. It just really takes away from that aspect. It can lead to misinterpretations, which is a big one. And it can be disruptive and kind of distracting, right? We're telling you that's a way to show that you're very not interested in someone's conversation when you're texting and they're talking to you. But sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing that. It can be very, very addictive and very distracting.
So what are some things you guys think that you should not share online?
Writer?
Can you broaden that question a little bit more?
So what wouldn't you, like personal information, what wouldn't you share online? What wouldn't you post on Facebook or?
Political views.
What was that?
Political views.
Sure. Yeah, that is a sensitive topic to many people. What else? What's something that you wouldn't want strangers knowing? Yes.
How much money I make?
Great
For
one.
example.
Yeah.
Ask your phone number.
Yes.
Mhm, absolutely.
Yes.
Those are all great ones.
So
Yes.
yeah, so like some of the ones you guys were saying, like phone numbers, passwords, credit card numbers, your address, social security numbers.
And yeah, all the ones that you said. Basically all the personal information that could either get you in trouble, get someone you love in trouble, or really give someone that you don't know an opportunity to hurt you. You don't want to post any of that information.
I mean, as well as online, you shouldn't be sharing that with people in person as well.
That's personal.
Yes.
Right.
And don't forget, go to the bank.
Yeah. You don't want to share bank information.
Exactly. Okay, so now with security and passwords, most of us have phones or laptops. We want to make sure that it's secure. So this little meme here, beware what you share, right? So we mentioned some things that we shouldn't share online. So for your phones, you want to use unique passwords and definitely don't share them with strangers. So like a unique password wouldn't be something that someone would easily guess, like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's an easy one. Or maybe even just your name. That's something that you can definitely just guess, right? You want to make it unique, something that is that your password? You should change it now. You should change it.
Now we know.
All right.
Learn from Phil.
Definitely. And also in emails and even Facebook posts, you want to avoid clicking on links from people you don't know. So these links can actually lead you to fake sites, and actually these sites can actually steal some of your information, like your login, your password, things that you want to keep to yourself. So make sure to lock your phone and use a passcode or fingerprint to unlock your phone. I know my iPhone has that option. Roberto, you too? Yeah. So basically your fingerprint is your own, so only you can open it, which is great. Oh, that's a video.
Should we come back to it?
You can come
Are
back
we
to it.
doing on time? Yeah, just because the internet, if we have time, we'll show you this. Pretty cute video, but
Yeah, but it kind of just sums up exactly what we talked about.
yeah. So, up next is social networking safety, just kind of going off the same thing that Shirley just talked to you about. Always think about what you post because you never know who's going to end up seeing that. You don't know if your future employers, which they really might, see the things that you post on a fun weekend that you had and it may not be appropriate and you don't want them to see it. Or even your grandma who has you on Facebook, she might not want to see some of the more provocative things that you want to post. So you really want to be aware about the things you're posting because once you post it on the internet, it's there forever. You might think that deleting it means it's gone. Sadly, it is not. Once you post something on the internet, it's there. And if people want to find it, they can. So be very careful about that. Again, keep your personal information private. You know, there are things that you can share with your friends or people online, and there are things that you really shouldn't. Just like, you know, your address, social security, things we just talked about. When in doubt, throw it out, and that just refers to when you have any suspicious links, suspicious photos, just from things that, you know, you might find fishy or just don't know about, just delete it. You know, if someone has information to tell you, they can tell you in person or a more secure way. And always be kind to others, but beware of catfishing. This is a very modern term. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, but it's kind of a big problem that we'll get into. And catfishing just really refers to when someone pretends to be someone they're not on the internet. And they can do so by using other people's pictures, other people's information, and they pose as someone they're not. And they usually try to deceive people on purpose.
So here are just a few signs of when someone's catfishing you. So they can maybe have little activity with friends on social media, so they might only have like 5 friends, or they're not really active on their social media. They might not post many pictures. They never want to show their face when you're talking to them. They might be asking you for money.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Never trust anyone that asks you for money on the internet.
Never.
Yes.
Never a good sign.
No. And then lastly, if the relationship just is progressing way too quickly, it's another sign.
Have any of you guys don't need to actually, but this happens to a lot of people, and don't feel bad about
Very
it. There's crazy things that you can do on the internet nowadays, that the links that people go through to deceive others. Just really try to take note of these points and just be vigilant about, you know, these people that you might meet on the internet.
Right, so we reviewed some of the signs and to keep yourself safe and prevent yourself from being catfished. You want to be cautious when speaking to people you don't know. So look out for those signs. I mean, are they interacting with a lot of people? Like, let's say it's Facebook. Do they have a lot of friends? Do you have any mutual friends as well? So trust your instincts. So obviously look out for those signs. And if you're unsure, you want to ask any friends, parents, people you trust for advice. So if I'm going through something and I potentially want to meet somebody, before I do that, I definitely don't want to just jump into it like, hey, let's meet up. No, I want to ask maybe Crystal or someone I trust, like, hey, do you think this is safe? And if not, maybe I can invite people along, right? So just in case I don't get catfished.
So to just summarize everything we went through, we went over some social cues, and these are important for expressing yourself and understanding others and just making and keeping friends. How to enter group conversations, just keep in mind not to interrupt, and that whatever you say should be adding to the topic. We went over initiating individual conversations, which includes greeting and choosing a topic or asking a question. How to determine if someone's interested in the conversation, paying attention to their eye contact and how they're responding and engaged with you. Initiating get-togethers, conflict resolution, and social networking, and just safety on the internet.
So before we get into our little evaluation, just a couple of discussion. We're not giving you a test or anything. Do you guys want to see that video? That we
Yes.
Yeah? I think we do have some time.
It's like 2 minutes long.
Yeah, it's a cute one.
I'm gonna try it.
That was fast. I spoke too soon. So just kind of went over everything we talked about, keeping yourself safe, not sharing personal information. So now let's see what we've learned today through a little discussion. We'll read it to you. Sorry, there's a lot of words.
Yeah.
So this is just like a little scenario. So Steve has just started a new internship position. His coworkers are taking a lunch break in the staff lounge, where he overhears them planning to go see a movie over the weekend. He wants to be included, but isn't really sure what to do. So the first question is, what could Steve say to start this conversation with his coworkers?
Well, if before you want to talk to them or send or anything like that, you should just think about it first.
Yeah.
Okay. What's something that he could say to start? Remember we watched those videos about how those girls entered a conversation? If they're talking about a movie that he wants to see, maybe what's something that he could say? Yeah.
I think he should introduce himself first.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
And then he should say, what movie you guys want to go see this weekend?
Yeah,
Perfect question. Yes.
Perfect.
So the next question is, should Steve interrupt his coworkers to join the group, and why or why not?
No,
Why not?
because it's rude.
Yes, that's right.
That's
It's
right.
rude. Lastly, what social cues might the group members express to show that they're interested in having Steve in the conversation?
So basically, what might they look like if they're interested in
Their
having Steve
facial
join them?
expressions, their eye contact.
And a good listener.
Yeah.
How would they show that they're being a good listener?
They have to look at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They smile, polite, have good manners, and don't interrupt.
Right.
Yeah.
What might it look like if the group wasn't very interested in having Steve join their conversation?
And I would just walk away, ignore them. Just don't pay attention.
Okay.
Just don't do anything about it. Just pretend you're not here. So if you don't listen, don't pay no mind, then don't do anything, and then they'll forget.
That's a great response, if you see someone's not interested. But what would someone who's not interested look like?
What would their face look like?
Yeah. Or their body
Different.
language.
So not smiling, right?
Maybe a little annoyed.
Maybe the arms
like
crossed
this.
again, like
Grumpy.
this.
Maybe not
Yeah.
even looking at
Yes.
them. Like,
Ignoring them.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right. Good job. So for this one, handling peer conflict, we're gonna just have you watch this video quickly, and then we'll ask you the questions based on this. Okay? Oh. Oh,
Other way.
my bad.
Yeah, it's like down below.
Hasty. I'll let you do it.
I don't know.
Oh,
Do I
you
have
got
to hit
this.
it hard?
Just in the middle. Yeah. So this is in a scenario where they have a little disagreement or a conflict.
So I think we're both on our break, and I was wondering if I could talk to you about something privately. Yeah, sure. Okay. So I just heard that you've been talking about me behind my back and telling other people that I have a crush on Gabe, and I'm just really upset because that was a secret, and that's my own personal business, and I just don't want everyone talking about me behind my back. Yeah, it sounds like you're really upset with me. Yeah, I'm really upset just because it was a secret, and when I told you that, I thought that you would keep it that way, and I'm just upset that other people are talking about me and just kind of talking about my business, and it's my personal life that I don't want other people to know about. I didn't realize it was a secret. I thought other people knew, so I didn't realize they would make fun of you for it. Well, it sounds like you didn't know that it was a secret, but it's still really embarrassing. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was my mistake. Well, there's not much that we can do about it now, but just in the future, I'd really like for you to keep things that I tell you secret, and just not talk about my personal life even with that. I'll make sure from now on not to talk about your private business with other people. Okay.
So what kind of tone and voice volume is Alina, the girl on the right, using to bring up the disagreement?
Well, it is not very polite to talk about people's personal business, because when you tell everybody about that person, that would hurt the person's feelings.
Yeah.
And that's not very good, and it's not their business. So it's just better if you don't say nothing. So if you see somebody with somebody each other, just don't do anything and don't say anything about it. If you leave them alone, then you won't get in trouble. And then people won't say anything, then you won't hurt their feelings anymore.
But did you notice that Alina, the one on the right, she was the one who was upset about something and she brought it up? But how did she do it? Like, what was her tone of voice?
She's trying to protect herself.
Right, but how was she speaking? Was she speaking loudly?
How did she sound?
Was she being mean?
Quietly.
Yeah, very calm, right?
Calm down.
Yeah. So do you think this was helpful in resolving their conflict?
Yes.
The way she brought it up, right?
Sure.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
Well, because I think it's better if she's saying a polite way instead of yelling out loud or rudely. Because if they do that, then people find out she's not nice too.
Absolutely. So you really want to bring up the conflict in a way where you can come to a mutual understanding, and really the way to start that is to approach it in a calm tone. You know, you don't want to come in yelling, swinging at someone. That's going to make them not very, that's not going to make them very eager to resolve your conflict either. So what are some strategies that you will use to handle your future conflicts?
I would think about it before I say something, or just ignore it, just don't do anything about it.
Okay. Roberta, what would you do to handle a peer conflict?
Think about what I'm going to say first.
Before you actually say it?
Before I handle the situation.
That's a good one. Do you think you'll approach it in a calm way, an angry way?
More calm way.
Calm, okay. Awesome.
Like your body language.
More polite.
Well, show me.
Like, just sit up straight. You just kind of avoid and show them what interested when talking about the conversation.
How would you do it, Sonny?
I would sit up straight.
What if you were standing?
Like this.
Oh, then my hands go like that.
Hands on my side.
Yeah.
It's another important thing to remember when you're in a disagreement. No matter how angry you are, still try to listen to the other person's side, listen to their perspective, right? They may not have known that they were hurting you. It might have been an accident, and it's really good for both parties if you can come to a mutual understanding.
Okay, so social networking safety. Kat accepted a friend request from someone she doesn't know on Facebook. She notices that he has only 2 photos and shared no mutual friends. Within the first conversation, he asks Kat if she can lend him money to pay for new shoes he's been wanting. So, the first question is, what should Kat do next in this situation?
Say no.
Say no, yeah. Let's see. What are some signs that this unknown friend may be a potential scam?
You might be a scam artist.
So what part of this where it shows that he might not be safe?
So just to reiterate, she doesn't know him on Facebook. He only has 2 photos. They don't have any mutual friends. Yeah.
Well, she doesn't want to stand people who they don't know because they're strangers.
Strangers, right. Yes.
The way he looks, homeless, he might be a homeless person.
Well, maybe not so much of that. It's more of he doesn't have a lot of pictures of himself, right? So that might be a little a sign of the catfishing that we talked about earlier. And also, did you guys notice that in the first conversation, the first thing he asks is, can I have some money? Is that kind of an appropriate conversation to have?
No.
No.
Yeah. I would say it's the number 1 red flag. Do not trust someone you don't know, especially if they are asking you for money. A real friend would not do that.
Right. Oh, and what could have Kat done differently to avoid this dilemma?
There's several things she could do. What would you do to avoid this happening to you?
I wouldn't do anything about it. I would just mind my own business.
Yeah, maybe not
You
talk to
just ignore
strangers.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ignore it.
Yeah. Someone
You can even
messages you.
unfriend this person, right?
Or block,
Yeah.
right? That's why you have these settings on your social
Exactly.
Or just walk away.
Yeah. If you feel uncomfortable, you can totally just not answer them or just unfriend them or block them.
Because if they ask you a question, if it's personal, ask them, why do you ask?
Right? That's a fair question.
Good job, guys. So our last slide, for electronic communication, what are some things you should not share online? just to review. Yeah, Lee, and then some.
Your password and your username.
Mhm.
What else?
Money and phone number.
Yes.
Roberto, can you think of anything else?
Personal information,
Like what?
like credit card information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Social security,
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Your address.
Yep.
everything, address.
Yeah.
And don't forget your paycheck.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want people knowing how much you make. Anything of that sort. Good job. Why is it important to be cautious of what you post on social media? A little clue. Think about who might be seeing this, or who might be seeing the stuff you post. Yeah.
You know, some people who works at the company, like who pay bills, everything, they're gonna find out.
Yeah. Your employers, right?
Mhm.
People
Your
who are in
boss.
charge of your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want them to see provocative or inappropriate things that you post, right?
Mhm.
Or even your family member, this grandma.
Grandma,
So be
she's
careful what
shocked.
you post. You never know where it'll end up. And then, are there social cues in electronic communication?
Yeah. Sort of.
So if I'm texting you right now, can you see what I look like? Can you see my facial
No,
expressions?
no.
Yeah.
That's
What if
why
I exactly?
My cell phone, I don't have it like that.
What if I'm texting you? You're so funny, and my facial expression and body language is like,
No, that's not good.
I probably don't think you're that funny. I
No,
do.
no, no.
Yeah.
But you are
No.
funny.
Yeah, so you can't interpret those social cues through electronic communication, so that can lead to misinterpretation. So you want to be clear, right? You want to keep it sweet and simple, and you want to be polite. Okay? Do you guys feel comfortable about everything we went over today?
Yes.
All right. Any questions?
Questions.
Any at all? Even about us, if you're. Yes.
Yes, Lee.
So next time, just before you do something or say anything, think about it first. That's the only one that could help.
That's a.
That's a
Serious.
good takeaway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that is a good one.
So, anyone else have any questions?
Oh, I have a question for you guys. Would you like
Oh,
some
yeah.
Starburst?
I know we're so
yeah,
we brought you candy after
I know,
a
we have
lecture about
nutrition,
nutrition. I know
but
we're
yeah.
so sorry.
Yes.
It's okay about it.
You're
Portion
okay?
control,
Yeah,
though.
moderation is
You guys make all those memes?
No, didn't make them. Found them.
No.
Filtered through some.
Yes, please. All right. I'm gonna.
There's
That's some of the good ones. I saw that Phil J. Fry one.
yeah.